Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you very much for taking the time to be with us today. I'm Sam Tomlinson, Chief Client Officer at MediaSense, and I'm going to be leading our way through a discussion around the future of digital advertising and what I personally believe is a sort of tipping point as we start to think about moving from efficiency to effectiveness. In summary, anyone can buy digital advertising cheaper. There's a plethora of low-value, cheap digital inventory out there. But that's not the same as buying smarter. And it's that theme that we're going to explore today. Tom, why don't you start by giving the audience a bit of background to where Haleon found itself 2 or 3 years ago?
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Sam, and thanks for having us. So like all great stories and love stories, it started with an audit, which I think is really great to have at the Festival of Creativity, but audits are important. And we did a piece of work and we identified that we were caught in the race to the bottom. We were so focused on being cheaper and trying to get impressions as cheap as possible that actually we were massively eroding effectiveness. And when we started to do some analysis of what we were buying, the reality was that it wasn't actually helping our business to grow. It was probably doing the opposite. It was eroding our values, and it was eroding effectiveness. And really, it was kind of wastage. Like we were at a point where we were so fixated on it that actually we were using media as something to cash out on, a bit of a bank, rather than using it as something to drive growth for our business. So we did a piece of work with yourselves where we kind of completely changed our investment strategy, which was looking at how can we actively go for better quality media, but also how can we incentivize the agency and our markets to do that.
So, hopefully Tom is conveying this has been hugely powerful and effective. It's also complicated, right? That is a truly cross-functional collaboration between marketing, procurement, sales, finance. You've got to get all these different stakeholders on board. You've got to think about your digital and your offline media. You've got to make sure you have got an independent way of assessing results, and you've got to drive that change through how many markets?
48.
Drive that change through 48 markets. And to have got to where Tom and the team got to, where they've shifted that mindset from efficiency to effectiveness, successfully reporting 8 consecutive quarters of growth, with that growth being attributed to the role played by media, I think is phenomenal.
There are a raft of new regulations or emerging regulations coming our way. Consumer protection and competition, AI, online safety, all of these are going to be making the regulatory landscape a lot more complex. And when you think you're in 48 markets, trying to manage that on a multi-territory basis is quite a challenge. But critically, especially if you're working with health data, the trust of the consumer and the trust of the regulator is really important.
And that sort of, when Kath and I have worked together in the past, she's been fantastic in helping brands think about what customer data do you hold, why do you hold it, where do you store it, how are you using it, how are you not going to use it, when should you delete it, and in part, how accurate is that data as well. And I think that sort of accuracy and governance over customer data is going to become a huge theme as AI takes off. We get asked a lot at MediaSense about AI and how it affects media. And interestingly, what we're seeing right now is less impact on media, and I'll explain that in a second. Where we're seeing AI have a huge impact right now is on the production of ads and the adaptation of ads. Massive impact. LLM-driven LLM apps, the impact they are having on paid and organic search, huge impact. They are examples of AI affecting us right now, production and search. In media, some of you who are roughly my age might remember an old adage called garbage in, garbage out. And I read a quote the other day that said, if you haven't first sorted your data, your customer data and your media data, if your data is a mess, if it's fragmented, if it's all over the place, if it's aged, if it's inaccurate, you feed that into an AI model, and all it will do is, much faster than before, give you a really convincing, incorrect answer. And that is really fundamental to the use of AI. You have to get your data ready for the AI. Also, the AI needs to evolve to the point where it's ready for data. So will AI be having a huge impact on media in 3 years? Yes. Will you be benefiting from it? Only if you've first sorted out your own data and technology strategy that will underpin AI when it's ready for your media data. And if any of you are sitting there thinking, that's not true of me, I'm working at a big brand, my data's in perfect condition. If you're a global head of media and I was to ask you, how much exactly did you spend on media globally last month or last year? The answer you would give me is, just give me a second, I need to go and ask my 3 different agencies who are going to pull that data together through 15 different spreadsheets. Is that ready for AI? Possibly not. And so Tom started to move us there into thinking about retail media, which is one of the sets of channels in the media impact model. And a bit of context around retail media, it's obviously growing incredibly fast off the back of a promise of accurate customer data with intent to purchase, close to proximity to purchase, closed loop attribution. There's a reason retail media is growing really quickly. And to give a bit of context, in the UK this year, IAB Europe think that retail media will get to £5 billion. It's about the same size as the UK TV ad industry. And WPP are forecasting the same thing globally. They think retail media globally will be about the same size as TV this year. Now, I'm a massive believer in the power of TV to build brands. So I'm giving this for context, and I'm on RTL stage. This is not an either-or decision between TV and retail media. It's you want to do both, and you want to do both really well.
But I think the third reason, and I think probably the most interesting one, is that I think brands are genuinely going to use retail media as an opportunity for structural change and reorganisation.
So ISBA and we at MediaSense have undertaken an extensive study into digital retail media in the UK. The findings definitely have global applicability. That study, which comprised more than 25 advertisers, retailers, agencies, tech vendors, a huge amount of surveys and interviews. And that's due to be published next month in July. The overarching message from everyone we spoke to is no doubt that as retail media grows and grows quickly, good governance is required because with growth comes increased scrutiny. So there are themes for today. Broad theme, digital advertising, I think is an inflection point, moving from efficiency to effectiveness. Tom talked about how Haleon have done that through both their offline and their digital media. Dan talked about why his members, the big brands, are so excited about retail media. There's a study coming from ISBA and us next month. And then Catherine sort of scared us about coming regulation, but explained that there can be routes through this, provided you adhere to your principles and values.